The body shop did not become fragile because people suddenly stopped caring about ethical beauty. That would be the simple version of the story. But the real version is stranger. The body shop helped teach the beauty industry that ethics could sell. Then, decades later, it had to compete in a market where almost everyone had learned to speak that same language. And that is what makes the company so interesting. This was not a brand with nothing left. Even in the 2020s, many customers could still discover one of its shampoos, body butters, or fragrances and feel that the product was genuinely good. The quality memory was still there. The emotional memory was still there. The problem was that a good product is not the same thing as a protected business model. The Body Shop started in Brighton, England in 1976, when Anita Roddick opened a small green shop with a very different idea of what beauty retail could be. At the time, the cosmetics industry was still built around glamour, aspiration, polished advertising, and the promise that a product could make someone look closer to an ideal. The Body Shop came from another direction. It sold skincare, body care, fragrance, hair care, and cosmetics. But the deeper offer was trust. The packaging was simple. The language was direct. The products were inspired by ingredients from around the world. The shop did not feel like a luxury counter. It felt accessible, human, and almost rebellious. From the point of view of an entrepreneur in that moment, the opportunity was clear. Big beauty companies were powerful, but they were also distant. They sold desire, but not necessarily values. If a customer wanted to buy products without feeling manipulated by the beauty industry, there was space for something different. The Body Shop filled that space before most competitors understood it existed. That original insight was not just moral, it was commercial. If customers believed the company, they would not only buy a moisturizer or a bottle of shampoo, they would buy into the idea that shopping could reflect who they were. The store became more than a place to pick up products. It became a physical expression of a worldview. That is why the Body Shop worked. The company made ethical consumerism feel simple and visible. A customer could walk in, smell the products, read the labels, hear about animal testing, ingredients, communities, and campaigns, and leave with something affordable. The purchase was small, but the meaning felt bigger than the price. For a founder, this kind of customer response is powerful. When people are not just buying what you sell, but repeating what you believe, the business starts to carry its own marketing. Every shop becomes a message. Every product becomes a conversation. Every loyal customer becomes part of the brand's distribution. The smartest decision was turning values into a repeatable retail experience. The Body Shop did not hide its activism behind the product. It put the activism inside the brand. Campaigns against animal testing, community trade, environmental causes, and human rights were not side projects. They were part of the reason people cared. Long before purpose became a corporate buzzword, the Body Shop made purpose feel like a reason to enter the store. Then came scale. In the 1980s, the company became one of the most recognizable names on the British High Street. It listed on the London Stock Exchange in 1984 and expanded internationally through stores and franchises. That expansion made sense. The concept was simple enough to travel. A green shop, ethical positioning, distinctive scents, affordable products, and a brand story that could be understood quickly. To leadership, growth would not have looked reckless at first. It would have looked like validation. If the idea worked in one city, then another country, the logical step was to repeat the formula. The more stores opened, the stronger the brand looked. The more visible the brand became, the more credible the movement felt. This is how the Body Shop became an empire, not through one miracle product, but through a system. Values, stores, products, campaigns, and customers who wanted beauty to feel cleaner, kinder, and more conscious. But the same system contained a hidden weakness. A physical store is powerful when the store itself is the experience. It lets customers touch, smell, ask questions, and feel the atmosphere. For the Body Shop, the store was not just distribution. It was proof. But proof is expensive. Rent is expensive. Staff are expensive. Inventory is expensive. High street locations are expensive. And as long as the store creates traffic, those costs can be justified. But if the reason to visit becomes less unique, the same network that once proves the brand can start to weigh it down. The first major shift came when the Body Shop moved deeper into corporate ownership. In 2006, the company was sold to L'Oréal. From a business perspective, this was understandable. L'Oréal had global beauty expertise, operational scale, distribution power, and resources that an independent company could not easily match. If you were looking at the Body Shop as a global brand with room to grow, a larger beauty group could look like the logical next chapter. But for a purpose brand, ownership is not just a financial detail, it affects credibility. The Body Shop had built its identity by standing apart from the mainstream beauty industry. L'Oréal represented the mainstream beauty industry. So even if the products continued, and even if the stores continued, the emotional contract with some customers changed. The brand that once felt like an alternative now belonged to the world it had once challenged. That does not mean the business failed immediately. It did not. The Body Shop still had global recognition, strong product memory, and a major retail footprint. But something subtle had shifted. The brand's mission now had to survive inside structures much larger than the original founder-led culture. Then the market changed around it. The Body Shop had helped make ethical beauty desirable. But once that happened, ethical beauty stopped being rare. Cruelty-free, vegan, natural, sustainable, fair trade, clean, responsible, conscious. The language spread across the industry. New brands arrived with sharper packaging, stronger digital marketing, more scientific claims, more luxurious stores, lower prices, or more exciting product innovation. Competitors did not need to copy the Body Shop perfectly. They only needed to take pieces of its message and attach them to models that felt newer. This is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a pioneer. The original idea can win culturally, while the original company loses commercially. At first, being ethical made the Body Shop different. Later, being ethical was no longer enough to explain why a customer should choose it over everyone else. Once the moral language became common, the company needed another edge: better digital execution, stronger product excitement, clearer pricing, fresher stores, or a more compelling reason to return. Without that, the old advantage became weaker. And when differentiation weakens, economics become less forgiving. In 2017, L'Oréal sold the Body Shop to Natura, the Brazilian cosmetics group. Again, from the operator's point of view, there was logic in the deal. Natura also had a values-driven identity, with its own reputation around sustainability and direct selling. On paper, it looked like a better cultural home than a traditional beauty giant. But cultural fit is not the same as operational fit. Natura's strength was deeply connected to relationship-based selling and its own ecosystem. The Body Shop was a global retail chain with stores, franchises, e-commerce, wholesale relationships, and a brand that needed reinvention in mature markets. Managing that kind of business required more than shared values. It required capital, focus, retail discipline, and a clear answer to what the Body Shop should be in a beauty market that had already absorbed many of its original ideas. The numbers began to show the pressure. By the early 2020s, the Body Shop was dealing with weaker sales, high costs, and a difficult retail environment. The pandemic had accelerated online shopping habits. Inflation raised costs. Consumers had less room for discretionary purchases. High streets and malls were no longer the automatic traffic machines they once were. For a store-heavy business, this is dangerous. If sales drop, the rent still has to be paid. The staff still have to be paid. The shelves still need product. The brand can still be loved, but love does not pay fixed costs unless it turns into enough purchases. That is where the decline became a mechanism, not just a mood. The Body Shop was not simply old. It was caught between an expensive legacy model and a less distinctive market position. Its stores still carried the brand's history, but history was no longer enough to guarantee traffic. Its products could still impress people, but product quality alone was not enough to protect the whole structure. In 2023, Natura agreed to sell the Body Shop to Aurelius in a deal valued at £207 million, including an earnout. Compared with the €1 billion valuation attached to the 2017 sale, the drop told its own story. The brand still had recognition, but the business underneath it had become much harder to defend. For Aurelius, the attraction was also understandable. Turnaround investors look for companies where a damaged business still contains a valuable asset. The Body Shop had exactly that. A famous name, loyal customers, global awareness, and decades of ethical credibility. If costs could be cut, operations simplified, and the brand refreshed, there might still be a profitable future. But turnaround logic depends on time, cash, and control. The Body Shop did not have much room left. In February 2024, the UK business entered administration. Stores were closed, jobs were cut, the US business ceased operations. Canada began restructuring. Parts of the international network were disrupted. A brand that had once made ethical beauty feel global was suddenly being broken into pieces by the reality of insolvency. This was the point of no return. Administration is not just a dramatic headline. It means the business can no longer continue under the old financial structure. Specialists step in to decide what can be saved, what must be sold, and who gets paid. For suppliers, employees, landlords, franchisees, and customers, the brand may still be familiar, but the machine behind it is no longer stable. And this is where the Body Shop's story becomes sharper than a simple collapse. The mission did not vanish. The product memory did not vanish. The customer affection did not vanish. What collapsed was the old shape of the empire. Later in 2024, a consortium led by Aurea Group acquired the Body Shop's remaining UK operations and related assets, with plans to revive the brand under a smaller and more focused structure. That survival matters. It shows that the name still had value. The Body Shop was not worthless. It was overextended, weakened, and forced to shrink into something that could be rebuilt. The lesson is not that purpose-driven brands are fragile by nature. The Body Shop proves the opposite. Purpose helped build one of the most recognizable beauty retailers in the world. But purpose has to keep earning its place in the business model. If the mission becomes familiar, the product must keep evolving. If the stores are expensive, they must create a reason to visit. If the brand depends on trust, ownership, and execution must protect that trust. If the market copies your language, you cannot survive only by reminding people that you said it first. The Body Shop helped change beauty. That was its achievement. But changing an industry creates a new problem. Once the industry learns your lesson, you have to build the next advantage. The Body Shop did not lose because ethical beauty failed. It struggled because ethical beauty became normal, while the company was still carrying the weight of the empire that had made it famous.